Hello, this is Roland. Welcome. Today I want to talk about emotion. I want to talk about emotion in a way that you may not have heard before. And I want to say that emotion is our downfall. Before Adam ate of the forbidden fruit, before he responded to the temptation, he was not emotional. Yes, he delighted in God's beautiful earth, and he was in awe and wonder of the Creator. And there were modest delights in things that he did, but he was not emotional in the way that we think of now. When we think of emotion, what do we think of? We think of excitements, passions, laughing and screaming at ball games and drinking and partying. And then we think of anger, resentment, hurt feelings, feeling sorry for ourselves. All these emotions. Didn't have them. They came into being when Adam fell. And they come into being when you fall. Now I have to say that we're born as fallen creatures. You inherit a nature that is prone to be emotional. And in fact, that's all you know when you were a little kid. You are born with an ego nature, an ego animal nature that you inherit. It's not your fault. That's just the way it is. And then you grow through teases and challenges. But at some point, don't we all know that we're supposed to become less emotional? Isn't that what growing up is? Maturing? Isn't that what maturing is all about? To become more reasonable, logical, rational, calm, dispassionate, instead of getting excited and falling apart at the seams and doing dumb things that we do when we are emotional, right? So we all know that. But I want to say to you that emotion, the motion that comes from responding to teases and temptations and challenges on the outside is animal, not really human. Okay? Animals respond, but even animals are limited in their emotions. In fact, we're worse than animals in a sense. An animal will be, what will an animal feel? Not very much. Maybe a little bit of pleasure when he's in his warm den or relaxing in the sunlight, like a cat relaxing in the sunlight, or perhaps a little pleasure when being petted, or perhaps some sort of pleasure when eating, I guess. Some sort of fear when there's a threatening predator about. Perhaps a sort of anger when the animal is cornered. See, if an animal is cornered, it becomes anxious, and it becomes perhaps angry if you poke at it with a stick or something, which I wouldn't do, but I'm just saying that but you see how unnatural that is? It's unnatural. So probably the animals usually don't even become angry unless they're being prodded, poked, teased, challenged by some person, see? So all of this is to say that emotions are animal or sub-animal. But that's the only life that the ego knows. That's the only life that we know before the implementation of salvation. We sense deep down in our being that there has to be more to life than just eating and drinking and partying and laughing it up and screaming at ball games. We know there's got to be more than that. We don't know how to grasp it, but we know that some people have talked about something more. Well, so Adam fell, but we all fall. What happens when you fall? So what is a fall? A fall is a giving in to some tease or challenge. The fall is doubting yourself. See, the fall is losing confidence. The fall is wanting something too much. The fall is becoming angry at someone's temptation, their tease, their tease of a little bit of rudeness, or a little bit of not respecting you, or a little bit of disrespecting you. See, if you fall for that tease, then you become angry, right? Or hurt. So what rises then when you fall to the temptation? What rises when you see something that you really shouldn't have, but you want it? What rises to the occasion when you lust after something, whether it be a person or a drink or a drug? And then what happens when you give in to those emotions? So first you give in to the tease and to the taunt. After all, you could have remained aloof. You could have remained dispassionate. You could have stood back and simply observed it without reacting. But you went for it. And when you went for it, you fell for it. Like, you get it? When somebody falls for somebody else's line, or falls for a lie, or falls in love, or see, you fell for it. So it's a very apt word, to fall. And when you fell, then what? Emotions rise to compensate for what you lost. And what did you lose? You lost reason, understanding, virtue. You lost something, and something else rises to compensate. If someone can make you doubt yourself, you know what's right, don't you? So what's right is right. So you don't do wrong, you see what's right. And if someone said that wrong is right, then you just simply see that they're wrong. See, it's that simple. But if you get caught up in their clever arguments, their clever words, see, and then you get caught up in thinking about it and wondering, well, what if this and what if that, and maybe this and maybe that, and before long you start to get confused and pulled down into the intellect. And then what rises? Emotions. Now you feel doubt. You doubt what's right. See? And then doubting what's right, then maybe you still want to defend what you see as the truth, but now what do you have to use? You have to use anger to compensate for your loss of calm, reason, and the strength that comes from being right, you see? So I could go on and on. The point I'm trying to make, and I can't emphasize it enough, is that emotions are not human. So in the Bible, there are many references to laying down life and picking up another life. Laying down the ego life, picking up the spiritual life. Laying down the Psyche or Psyche life, the life of the ego, that includes the passions and the excitements and the angers and the hurts and all that stuff. And picking up the Zoe, the spiritual, the life of the spirit. But once you fall to being an animal, once you fall to emotion, then your life begins to revolve around the source, the tease, the source of the temptation, the source of what made. And then your life begins to revolve around the emotions and highs and lows, and trying to replace one emotion with another, one idea with another. And it becomes a cycle of tension, and then seeking release of the tension, which feels like pleasure. You know, when you get angry, then you get all tense and all nervous and all anxious and all fearful and all worried and all hateful and all vindictive and all of that, and build tension, and you look for relief of the tension. That's what life revolves around. See, motion and of stimulation, arousal, excitement, tension, and release, and then fatigue and sleep. Stimulation, you wake up to the alarm clock and you start worrying. Oh, as you start remembering things you have to do. Oh no, I've got to do this. I've got to pay the bill. I've got to call on that client. See, those are all forms of temptation. See, you have the memory the memories of the day before, because you didn't deal with the moment properly. That doesn't mean that you can't do business and call a client or have something to do or even plan to do it. I'm not saying that. But see, there's a razor's edge. There's a difference between doing something because it's remembering something because it was a temptation. Oh, that's right, I got to pay that bill. I got to call that client. See? So the memory is there of the day before. So first the stimulation of the alarm clock, then the stimulation of the housed, the memories that are of the temptation that is housed, your improper response to something. See, the client may not be a temptation. He's just a client. The bill is not trying to tempt you. It just is. That's all. But you react to it like it's a temptation. Oh, another bill. I have to pay it today. I don't have stamps. I got to go. See? React. See? So you wake up to the alarm clock stimulation. And then the stimulation of the memories of the improper reaction to something. And then you're stirred into action, tension. See, from the aroused animal emotions. And then your motion began with the stimulation of the temptation, or what you used as temptation. And then after that motion then becomes fatigue, release of tension. Maybe after work you smoke a marijuana, or you have a drink, or you go work out, not simply for an exercise, but to drain off the excess energy tension energy. And then you seek pleasure in the tension release, pleasure in food, pleasure in drink, pleasure in entertainment, and then fatigue, and then sleep, and then the next morning the alarm clock again. So a person's whole life revolves around stimulation, things breaking down, things going wrong. Some people can't do anything unless something goes wrong. See? Then they go into action, right? Somebody yells at them and then they go into action. So, see, that's the only life we know. And I could talk about it in various ways, our relationships, then our health, see? And so on. But I just want to keep it simple. So now you see that it's a life that revolves around stimulation, arousal, tension, release, fatigue, sleep. But there's another life, a life that revolves around rest. Still, rest in God. Begins in God. See, for the person who wants to be close to God, wants to know the truth, and is willing to lay down the life. So you can't lay down the life of yourself. You can't lay it down because it's all you know. It's like, who can give up food? Well, you can't give food up, obviously. But I mean, who hardly anyone can eat properly. Hardly anyone can eat the right things. And eat without getting some little ego pleasure out of it. See, it's one thing to get a modest pleasure from some food if you're hungry, but it's another thing to eat to get some ego benefit out of it, some benefit to the pride. So what is pride but a kind of tension itself, isn't it? It's somehow you're being held apart from God. How can you be prideful when you are in the presence of God, or you know God, know about God? How can you be prideful? How can you be prideful when you see that other people are just people? They're lost sheep. They're suffering too. They never found the answer. See, how can you hate them? How can you take pride in judging and hating another person? You can't. See? But until you're willing to give that up, to give up the judgment. So now I want to close with something that I began, I laid some groundwork. I have to lay groundwork. in the Bible, it says that Adam ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You maybe have wondered about that. Now maybe you can see what it is. Knowledge means intimate, being intimately acquainted. Like in the Bible when it says Adam knew Eve, it means that they had relations together and then they had children. It's intimate, knowing intimately. So Adam wanted to know good and evil. And then in fact he did know good and evil. How did he know good and evil? Feelings and judgments. So you judge something as being good if it makes you feel good. Then you feel good. That's the knowing. Knowing it intellectually, that's good. She's good. I like her. I like that. Makes me feel good. And then feeling it. And dredging, pulling something out of the feeling. Getting something out of that feeling for your pride, to support your pride. See? Or hating someone. That knowledge of good, so good is what makes you feel good is good for you, right? If it makes you feel bad, you hate it. It's not good. It's good if you like it. It's good if it flatters you, if it makes you feel good. See? If it supports you. If it doesn't support you, doesn't make you feel good, then you hate it, you resent it, you judge it as being bad. And then you feel the bad. You feel the resentment and the hatred and the anger and the grudge and the hurt feelings. See? See, the knowledge of good and the knowledge of evil. The knowledge of good. What you think is good, what you judge is good. She's good, he's bad. I like her, I don't like her. See, I like this food, I don't like that food. I don't like these kind of people. I don't like that kind of a person. I like that person. I like that idea. See? Knowledge, forming judgments, the knowledge of good and evil. And then the intimate acquaintanceship with it, intimately acquainted with good and evil through feelings. Feeling. You feel close to your feelings. You're intimate with your feelings, even when they lie to you. See? The knowledge of good and evil. But then it what? It deteriorates, doesn't it? Deteriorates into pleasure and pain, seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. Good, pleasure, makes you feel good. Pain, you don't like it, makes you feel bad. See? That's right. So now you understand knowledge of good and evil. But if you don't form judgments about people, if you don't say, I hate her, she irritates me, he's a jerk. See, she's nice. See? She's smart. This child is not good, not a nice child. I don't like this child. She never listens to me. I like him. He does what I ask him to do. See? Judgments. My husband, no good. Lazy. See? Men, no good. See? Knowledge of good and evil. So can you give up your judgments? Can you give up your pleasures, your hatreds, your passions? See, your excitements, the excitement about seeing something naughty, the knowledge of good and evil. So to you, something naughty, something very naughty, it's exciting because you can judge it as you're better than it. And yet you're excited about the idea of perhaps it'll give you pleasure. It'll give you excitement. See, and you can judge it. So now do you understand the knowledge of good and evil? And do you see how emotions are, why they're the ego life of the knowledge of good and evil? So now, can you lay down those emotions? Well, you can with the help of God. Only with the help of God. Because there has to be something to replace it. I had a teacher in high school. It's amazing how some of these teachers were so good. He wouldn't mind my saying his name. It was Coach Cordova. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was Coach Cordova. He taught history, and he was a football coach. Nice young guy. I don't know, he might be 22, 23, 24. There was a teacher shortage. She had just gotten out of college. He loved history. I think he was a history major. He was a great teacher. And we were talking, I think, about history, about World War I, World War II, or something like that. And then he said, you can't take something away from a people or a person. You can't take something away from someone without giving them in return something of value. So you can't just give up your emotion. How many of us have tried to give up smoking, or tried to give up eating too much, or eating the wrong food, or give up marijuana, or give up anything? See? You can't give up your pleasures, your excitements, the things that tease you, that stimulate you. You can't give them up till you find the other life. And the other life, you can find it by yearning for it, and by getting a taste of it when you begin to meditate properly. See, I have a proper meditation. It's not really my meditation, it's just a proper technique. So many of the meditations lead you astray. It's just very simple. Just learn to sit quietly. Look at the inside of your eyelids. See the little pixels of light, the little patterns of light, the glow of light, the little sparkles of light. Just look at them, just watch them, just observe them. And that immediately silences the bedlam of your imagination that goes round and round like a squirrel cage, worrying about this and planning that and scheming about this and daydreaming about that. Immediately, that television virtual reality screen of fantasy, illusion, not reality, immediately, that fascinates you, that entertains you, immediately you're just in the present, looking at a TV, as if you were looking at a television screen with, what do they call that white noise on it? You know, just, what do they call that? Like little, it's kind of dark, but there's little patterns of light flickering on, but it's not a picture. Well, so then you look at the inside of your eyelids, and at the same time you are aware of your hands, or your hand, maybe your right hand, be aware of your hand. Just notice your hand, feel that your hand exists. Feel the blood flowing into your hand. And as you do that, you're in the present moment, you're looking at the inside of your eyelids, you feel your hand. Sometimes it helps to remain focused on your hand and remain in the present by being aware of one finger at a time. So you can become aware of your thumb, for example. Notice your thumb. Feel the blood flowing into your thumb. Feel your thumb tingle a little bit. Just notice your thumb. Notice your first finger. Can you feel it tingle a little bit? Can you feel the life flowing into it? The blood flowing into it? And your third finger. Just notice it. Be aware of your third finger. Be aware of your fourth finger. Feel it. Notice your fourth finger. Feel the life in it, the warmth of it, the blood in it. See? That's all you have to do. Do that. And then as thoughts make their approach, all of a sudden you'll find yourself starting to drift off with a thought of something you need to do. Something that happened yesterday, related to work or whatever. Then you notice it, and then you're back in the present again, looking at the particles on the inside of your eyelid, the little particles of light, aware of your hand. If you can learn to do that every morning, midday for a couple of minutes or 5 minutes, and then in the evening, that reconnects you to your ground, to your ground of good, to your ground that's beyond the knowledge of good and evil, beyond all of your judgments and your fantasies and your animal emotions. So it'll have a nice quieting effect upon your being. And when you touch the inner light from God, see, instead of the flame of emotions, the heat of emotions, the life breath of emotions. Instead, the light from God, the warmth from God, the peace from God, and the breath of the Holy Spirit. See? Then you will taste of this other life, and it will begin to, because you want it, it begins to express itself through you. And then you change. Then you find all of a sudden one day that you don't need the extra chocolates. You don't need the marijuana. You find one day that you're no longer angry at someone. Someone does something that before it would have made you irritated or angry. Now you just have a quiet sense of nothing about it, or even just maybe a little bit of amusement. It's nothing. And the things that used to seem so exciting, the naughty things, now they're just nothing. Nothing. You don't like them, you don't hate them, you just don't need them. You find yourself becoming more natural, more spontaneous, see, more in the moment, more in the present. And the new life begins to unfold through you, just as when you were emotional, angry, passionate. See, the other life, the infernal ego life of pride, began to unfold through you. See? My name is Rowan.